Calificas para ser legal. ¿Quieres saber? Solo llama al abogado Andrés MEJER.
Good morning. My name is Andrés MEJER, and I am a speaker, published author, and immigration attorney. Thank you for joining us on this lovely morning for the English version of our Spanish radio show, Para Ser Legal, presented here through Facebook Live. So today we got a great show for you. 3 different subjects that we want to cover. 1, why is Trump really imposing tariffs on Mexico? What's the issue there? What's this really about? 2, 7 ways to protect yourself from getting deported because of your comments on social media. Can what you put on Facebook really get you deported? Yes, it can. And I'm going to give you 7 ways to protect yourself. And the third part is I'm going to give you 4 examples of where immigrants were deported because of comments they made on social media. So thank you for tuning in. My name is Andrés MEJER, and you can always give us a call at 888-888-0307. Again, that's 888-888-0307. You can find us on Facebook or on our website, Andrés MEJER Law. On all our social media channels, our handle is Andrés MEJER Law. So let's get right to it. Why is Trump imposing tariffs on Mexico? Well, this is another example of his continuing war on immigrants. I know you think, what does one thing have to do with the other? That doesn't make any sense. Tariffs? What does tariffs have to do on Mexico have to do with immigrants who are coming from Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, what's Guatemala? What's the connection? Well, you got to remember, Trump stopped aid to most of Central and South America because, quote unquote, they're allowing their citizens to come into the United States, illegally or otherwise. They're not doing enough to control their own borders, as Trump puts it. In a prior segment, I explained that in El Salvador, for example, in 2017, they had about 6.5 million citizens in the country, and 2019, we have almost 1.5 million El Salvadorian citizens in the U.S., so almost 25% of their population is in the U.S. That's a dramatic change. Now, what has Trump done on his war against immigrants? Well, he's tried to limit whole categories of people who can apply for asylum into the U.S. He has limited the number of people that can apply for asylum every day. He's forcing people to wait in Mexico while they're filing for asylum. He wants to detain more people while they're applying for asylum, meaning don't get released, get detained. Don't get work authorization, have to pay to apply. Now, many of these policies have been challenged by the courts. Trump's done everything that he could on his own through executive authority. He has not engaged with Congress in trying to solve the immigration problem. He blames Congress for not doing enough. That's forgetting that for the first 2 years, he had Congress. He had the majority and the House and the presidency. But yet he was not able to accomplish anything. Now, so what does he achieve by imposing tariffs on Mexico? Well, it's very simple. He's saying, Mexico, if you don't prevent these immigrants from coming to our borders, I will impose a tariff on you. I will tax you. I will hit you where it hurts, the economy. It'll hurt us too. Why is he doing that? Because Trump's recognized that he can't stop the flow of immigrants coming to our border. The Constitution prevents him from saying, sorry, we're full. We're not going to process your application. We're not interested in what happened to you. We don't have. That's his position. Arrive at our borders because Mexico detained and deported them pursuant to their own laws, then he doesn't have a problem. So he's trying to force Mexico to tell immigrants who are coming with their families or their kids, that are poor, that don't really have much of anything, that are running from persecution, saying, go back or stay in Mexico, but don't come to the U.S. because the U.S. doesn't want you. That's what he wants Mexico to say so that he doesn't have to. It's an interesting approach. I don't think it's appropriate, but I can understand what he's trying to achieve and why. Now, why are we talking about that? Because that just happened last week. That's breaking news. That's urgent. So it's important for you to understand what Trump says and what he's actually doing and why he's doing it. He doesn't want people to come and apply for asylum. Period. He doesn't want them here. Period. So if they're stopped before they get here, he's in the clear. Now, can you get deported because of your social media comments? Yes, you can. 100%. You got to be very careful about what you say and what you do. So I'm going to give you 7 tips to protect you from a visa denial. Now, since at least 2010, the government has been monitoring social media sites, but every year they get more sophisticated. USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, ICE, they're in the context of fraud or illegal activity. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you have to be very careful, because at some point you may want to be a U.S. citizen, or you may want to get a green card, and you're going to be interviewed by immigration, and your past is going to come up. Most people think that is a conversation among a select group of friends. Doesn't matter what we're talking about, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, but that just is that's not an accurate at all. A much better is think of a party with 1,000 guests, and you aren't in charge of who gets invited. In 1,000 might be the media, it might be law enforcement, the police, or it could be your mother. You don't know who's going to be there. And when you write a post, it's like you going up on stage, taking a microphone, and blasting that out. You don't know who's there, and you don't know how they're going to. It's not private. You got to be aware of that. So don't say anything or do anything that you will later regret. Tip number 1 to protect yourself from deportation on social media: change your privacy settings to be as restrictive as possible. You only want the people you invite into your world to read and see what you're saying. Tip number 2, don't accept friend requests of people you don't know. Now, I understand in LinkedIn it's a different story. You want to network, you want to meet different people because you want to see what they're doing, you want to share what you're doing. Maybe it'll come into a job opportunity in the future. You're graduating college and you want, that's a different story. There you may want people that they're in a position you may want to be in, or maybe they can help you. But again, you have to be very careful about what you're going to post. You're not going to put on LinkedIn that you were just in Colorado smoking pot. That doesn't make any sense. Well, you shouldn't put it on social media either unless you're a U.S. citizen. Because it's legal in Colorado, maybe legal in Amsterdam. It's not legal in New Jersey, and it's not legal under federal guidelines. And immigration is federal. So even if you live in Colorado and you're smoking pot in Colorado, if you're filing for a green card in Colorado, your spouse is a U.S. citizen, you show up into the interview, you've admitted to committing a crime. That's a no-no. You could find yourself in removal proceedings. Don't do it. Don't accept friends who you don't know. Now, I jumped ahead of myself. If you're applying for a green card, make sure your relationship status. Don't say you're single when your wife is applying. If you've been on Facebook once in the past 5 years and you created it and never touched it, fine, I get it. You don't need to go and update it because it's not something that you use. On Facebook 3 times a day, and you talk about your ex-girlfriends, your current girlfriend, you're seeing, and there's no pictures of you and your wife on there. There's no conversation about you and your wife, and it's photos of you and other women. You're gonna have a problem. don't forget, immigration suspects every petition is fraudulent. The burden is on you, the immigrant, to prove that it's a legitimate relationship, or to prove that your intentions are what you say that they are. That you're going to come into the U.S. for temporary reasons and then leave. So if you're applying for a tourist visa, don't go on Facebook and say, hey, I just sold my house and my car, I'm leaving, I'm going to the United States, goodbye people, I will never see you again. Don't do that, because the point of a tourist visa is to say you're here temporarily. Don't say something in the petition that you're coming to move to the U.S. permanently, when in your petition you're saying you came temporarily. You have to be consistent. Don't anything question the validity of your current relationship or application. Again, you have pictures of you and your girlfriend when you're married. Unless it's a very innocuous relationship, but even if it is, I wouldn't do it. You don't want pictures of you and other women unless it's your mother and your sister, and even then, I might argue, wait to post them until after you've passed your green card interview and you're now a green card holder and a U.S. citizen. Don't use anything. Don't give the government ammunition they can use against you. Now, you should have photos with you and your wife, or your parent, or whatever the basis of the relationship is. Social media is an opportunity to advertise to the world that this relationship is legitimate. Do what you would normally be doing. Very important. Tip number 4, don't make jokes about committing a crime in the U.S. or in a terrorist group, even if you mean it as a joke. The U.S. government does not have a sense of humor. They will take you at your word. Period. For example, Lee Van Bryant and Emily Bunting. Lee was from Ireland, Emily from the UK. About a week before they came to the U.S., Mr. Bryan, posted a comment on Twitter. Man, I'm going to go and destroy it. Now what he meant is, I'm going to go and I'm going to party and I'm going to just blow it up. It's going to be awesome. That's what he meant to say. But he's from the UK. He doesn't need to apply for a visa. He just presents his passport. So when he entered JFK, he got detained for 12 hours. Him and Emily, they were questioned. They were looking for bomb materials. They were deported from the U.S. They didn't believe his, I'm only coming to party. Don't use language like that, because you don't know who's listening and you don't know how they're going to use it. But they're going to take you at your word. If you're making jokes about shooting people, it ain't funny. If you're making jokes about blowing things up, again, government doesn't have a sense of humor. They will take you at your word. They'll take it seriously, because they can't do the opposite. They can't say, oh, you know what, we thought it was a joke, and then someone actually goes and does blow something up, or does go and shoot up a school or a mosque or a church or a synagogue, whatever. They have to take it seriously. Tip number 5, never make a joke about the stupidity of the government or how you lied or cheated the government. Those suckers, man. I flunked that driving test. I paid someone to do it for me. They don't even know. You don't post like that. That's an admission of fraud. Big no-no. Don't post anything that might lead the government to assume you cheated to get a benefit and then applying for a different benefit with immigration. 1, it's dumb. 2, it might be a crime. Even if it isn't a crime, they could use it as evidence that you're not a good moral person. You don't deserve the benefit that you're applying for. So, number 5, never joke about government stupidity. You're not going to get any benefit there, particularly when you're going to ask somebody for something, you don't start by insulting them first. Those comments to you. Don't post anything that contradicts your application. when and we had to in 2012, and we had to prove that immigrants were here before 2007, that they were entered the U.S. before they turned 16. Well, we use Facebook like crazy wherever there were gaps. So if somebody couldn't show that they were in the U.S. for a period of 6 months, well, guess what? Facebook has date stamps on stuff. So we were able to show they were here at the beach. We were able to show they were at this club, or they were at this restaurant, or they were at the movie theaters. When I look at your posts, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it tells a story of your life. It may not be a true story, it may not be an accurate story, it may not be the story that you want others to see, but you're still telling a story. And it shows where you've lived, and what you do and who you date, because that's what you're communicating to the world. If you're putting information in the application that doesn't coincide with your social media updates, you got a problem. Either you made an innocent mistake, remember, immigration doesn't believe there are innocent mistakes, or they think it's the truth coming out to light. So you'll be denied, and you'll be prevented from filing in the future because you lied to an immigration officer. Big no-nos. Number 6, don't threatening language. Ever. You shouldn't do it out in any way, but you still social media. So, an innocent example. Just you wait till I get home, honey. You'll see when I get there. Now, you might mean that as I got a surprise for you. I get a birthday present or something. I got roses, and I was whatever. I came home too late and I said words that I shouldn't have. That may be how you meant it. But the person who sees it, if it causes them to be afraid, let's say your spouse or your girlfriend or significant other, they can go to the police, they can get a restraining order, they can file charges against you for harassment, terroristic threats, assault, if there was a prior incident that wasn't reported. You never know. Don't put something that's ambiguous. Don't make threats. Even if you don't mean it as a threat. Just remember Mr. Bryan said, I'm going to tear it up. We're going to blow up America. We're going to is what he said. Again, you never know. Don't do it. Be clear. Don't be vague. Be clear. Don't joke about things like that, because it will be used against you. It may result in a crime, or it may result in deportation. Not a good option. Now, I'm going to give you 3 examples of people that were deported from the United States and that had legal status here. All of these were students, but it's not limited to students. You could be a green card holder. You can have an employment visa. You can have an H-1B. You could be you can have an O-1 because you're an athlete, or you're under here on an L-1. You're a manager. Your business brought you from one office to another office, or you're here to expand and to build a new office. You could be here as a tourist. You could be a green card holder. There's all sorts of, if you have any legal status other than U.S. citizen, you need to be careful what you post on social media. So I'm ANDRÉS MEJER. You can post any questions on Facebook that you have while we're here live, or you can give us a call on another occasion, 888-888-0307. Today we were talking about, number 1, what's the real reason why Trump imposed tariffs on Mexico? And number 2, can you get deported for your comments on social media? The answer is yes. And 7 tips to protect yourself from getting deported based on your comments on social media. The third part of this segment, I'm going to give you examples of people that actually were deported from the U.S. because of their comments on social media. You need to be protected. You need to be aware. You need to protect yourself because nobody else will. Number 1, California. Ahmad El-Sayed, an Egyptian Muslim in the U.S. as a student in flight school. So you can understand after 9/11, people are very sensitive to flight schools because, the terrorists drove planes into the World Trade Center and into the Pentagon and tried to do it in other locations as well before being shot down or crashing. So Ahmad El-Sayed, he posted on Facebook that a certain presidential candidate, if he died, it would do the world a favor. Now, the school saw that post. The school revoked his visa, contacted ICE. ICE detained him, and he was deported. Now, before he was deported, he said, listen, I didn't mean that someone should go out and kill him. I meant that individual is unfit to be president of this great country. But you know what? He didn't say that. And his post, particularly with an image with somebody with a bullseye, can be interpreted in a different way. Does this sound familiar? Because this is the kind of stuff that Trump does. But unfortunately, he is a U.S. citizen. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you can't do the things that Trump does and hope to get away from it. Ahmad El Sayed was thrown out of school, never completed his studies, and he was deported and likely never be able to come back to the United States. Now, he ultimately took voluntary departure, but even if he wants to come back, he's going to have a hard time given the nature of the circumstances in which he was detained and ultimately left. That's example number one, Ahmad El Sayed. Example number two, Keshav Mukan Behide, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce these names, I apologize. I do the best that I can. But he was a student from India, and he was deported when he made a comment about planning a school shooting at the University of Washington. He was convicted of cyber stalking, and he was deported from the United States. Now, he spoke favorably about a prior school shooting and intimated that it's a shame that things like that aren't happening here today. It wasn't clear, I am going to do. It was, I wish somebody would. And that was enough for him to be detained, his status revoked, and deported. It's not funny. Harming others, threatening others, hoping harm on others is not considered funny under any circumstances. And there is zero tolerance for this. When you think about the number of school shootings that we're seeing, aka Columbine, the most recent one in Florida, there was one in Delaware. I mean, almost every state, has had at least one, if not more. It's not funny. Don't do it. You may mean nothing by it, but the government is not going to take you at your word. Well, after the fact, they will take your comment as serious as it can be interpreted, and because it is subjective, you got a problem. So don't do it. Third example, Hang Xing Ni. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce his name. Chinese student at the University of Iowa. Now, all of these are college students. He was deported after making threats against his professors online. He spoke positively about his shooting from 10 years prior and said, you know what? Professors need a lesson. Too bad Lu Gongfu isn't here to teach them a lesson. Lu Gongfu was the shooter in that school 10 years before. He didn't say, I should go and do it or I will go and do it. He said, too bad somebody doesn't. Instigating, provoking, if you will. Commenting, saying, look, what these professors are doing is not appropriate in his world, in his view. He could say that. He can't say they deserve to die and someone should do it. That violates someone else's rights. Now, if he was a U.S. citizen and I'm that professor and I see that, listen, I'm likely to call the police. And you might get arrested for making that comment. That's a threat. Don't make threats online. Period. You shouldn't do them at all. But certainly don't do it online where it's there forever. Even if you delete it, it can still be retrieved. So all three, Ahmad El Sayed, Keshav Mukan Behide, Hang Xing Ni, all made posts on social media that can have more than one interpretation, all said that they were innocuous and innocent and well-meaning, and the government didn't buy it in either three scenario. All three, their statuses were revoked and they were deported from the United States. Ahmad El Sayed took voluntary departure. The other two did not. Keshav Mukan Behide was actually convicted of cyber stalking. He was doing a whole lot of posting. Be careful. Be smart. whatever you're going to post on social media, keep in mind, what if ICE reads this? What if the police reads this at some day? If you keep that in mind before you post it, you're not going to post that photo of you smoking the bong in Colorado when you're not a U.S. citizen and you're applying for an immigration benefit. Be smart. I'm Andrés Mejer. Thank you for listening to this segment of our radio show Para Ser Legal, to be legal. If you have any questions, our phone number is 888-888-0307. I wrote the book, Do You Qualify for U.S. Legal Status? If you want it, just request a copy of it. If you're in New Jersey, I'll mail it to you. If you're out of the state of New Jersey, I'll still send it to you, but only electronically. Thank you very much. Until next time.
Calificas para ser legal, quieres saber, solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.